Instrumental in driving forward many initiatives in the sport horse breeding world. As a judge, as a president, committee member, council member, trustee, chair and vice chair of numerous organisations, he drove standards up and set innovation rolling in agriculture, in rare breeds and in equestrianism. He was a dedicated breeder and a skilled rider. He showed, he hunted and he appointed. He was a Fellow of the Royal Agricultural Societies and an Honorary Fellow of the National Equine Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Richard Matson. Now, very sadly, Richard passed away on the 11th of December. Nonetheless, leaving a tremendous legacy for us all to benefit from. He was deeply involved with the Royal Agricultural Society of England and the Rare Breeds Survival Trust. Richard was the senior partner at the pioneering Twemlow Stud in Shropshire, which he set up in the 1990s and which is now run by his son Edward, with the corresponding stallion AI Services next door, run by his other son, Tullis. He was the first member of supporters of British breeding set up with Desi Dillingham, who sadly can't be with us tonight, and which established these awards. And he was a council member of the British Horse Foundation and vice chair of the National Equine Forum. Now, when Richard set these up 19 years ago, there were 30 guests sat round the table. Tonight, we have 31 tables and 300 guests. Richard was one of the organisers of the first British equine event held annually at Stoneleigh, which has now become Your Horse Live. He was a ridden and in-hand judge for sport horse breeding of Great Britain, as well as being a successful breeder and producer of hunters and sports horses. He set up Equine AI Technicians at Trade Association. Ladies and gentlemen, very sadly missed, but leaving us both with a legacy and a dynasty. Tullis and Edward will collect the SEIB Insurance Brokers Meritoire on behalf of their father, Richard Matson. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Meritoire, Richard Matson.
Right. Edward and I are obviously extremely honoured to be here tonight to pick up this award on behalf of my father. And we'd just like to obviously thank everybody who've been involved in obviously putting him forward for this award. Actually, Edward dug out a letter not so long ago which was mentioned from Desi Dillingham. I've got it here tonight and I'll just read it out to you. Just right at the beginning, going back sort of 20 odd years ago, it says, "Thank you very much for your generous cheque for the supporters of British breeding. You are the very, very first member. I haven't even set up a bank account yet. Thank you again, and I want to ensure that everybody knows you're the #1 member." And I thought it was quite a nice letter from Desi. So that was back in '96, and then the following year he attended the first dinner that was 30 people, now there's 300. Later that next year actually persuaded me to go with him, saying, "You've got to come along to this dinner." I must admit, I'll never forget it. When I got there, him and Desi put me down right between two identical, tall, blonde twins. I thought all my Christmas and Easter arrived at once. I thought it was a fantastic recruitment tactic from the British Breed Society, and I must admit, I've been here ever since for the last 18 years. I think trying to search these two blondes out again, actually. As you know, his passion for British breeding, you know, it runs through his veins. It was him through and through. And back in the early 60s, with his father, Bob Matson, they were breeding hunters and were always topping the sales of the Leicester sales. Every single year they were topping those sales. He was very much part of the HIS right at the beginning, and I've just got one very quick story to tell you. When we took a stallion down there called Daywell Pacific Gold many years ago, for this thoroughbred stallion, we got there the night before, and he said, "Can you plat?" And I said, "No, I can't really plat." And he said, "Well, I can't plat either." And he said, "Okay, well, I'll have to find someone to plat." So we dragged this young lady off the street. She platted the horse up for us, and I said, "Well, what's going to happen the next morning?" "Well, the plat's going to be out." She said, "Don't worry." And she lifted up her skirt, she took off her stocking, put the stocking down the mane, and I thought, well, that's a clever trick. Anyway, the next morning, we undid the plats, and he shoved the stocking into his pocket, and the horse went on. And then a few days later, he came to me and said, "I've got a bit of a problem." Mother's come up to me and said, "She's found a stocking in my pocket." It's a true story. And she said, "I'm not too worried about the stocking, but the person's got exceptionally hairy legs." So, and as we know, there's hardly a society that hasn't been a chairman of, there's hardly a breed society that hasn't been on. And, you know, throughout life, he was continuously on all these committees. He was prepared to speak up, sometimes against the trend, but his enthusiasm and pushing everything forward and standards obviously earned him a lot of respect. And as he's left this obviously great legacy behind at Twemlow's. And, you know, I started the AIR business back in 1988, and we've never imagined what it had grown into. So, you know, for the first 28 years that it was set up, and now we're obviously doing the ICSI projects and everything else, I know that he'll be very proud of what he's achieved and what we've achieved. So, but thank you again very much.
Well, thank you again to Tullis and Edward Matson. Well, we've now reached the end of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you all for